They held only the next thing, but then current K&M PLA was essentially a political man, a professional militaire who worked through the world like a chameleon, never revealing himself, never appearing not to, emerging through chaos unscathed. He was the first person in Yemen to hear of Rael's return. The news didn't burden him as much as excited his curiosity. Hester was almost a complete stranger to Conrad Pillay. His expulsion from Yemen had been so sudden and unceremonious and so long ago. But Rahel, Conrad Pillay, knew well. He had watched her grow up. He wondered what had brought her back after all these years. He had been quiet in Nesta's head until Rice came, but with her she had brought the sound of passing trains and light and shade. And the falls on you if you have a window seat. The wall looked out of ears suddenly flooded in, and now he has to near himself for the noise. Trains, traffic, music, the stock market, Adam and parts and savage waters swept everything up in a swirling. Comets, violence, parades, long lines, clouds, birds, bigots, lists, flags, earthquakes. Despair were all swept up in a scramble swirling. And Esther, walking on the riverbank, couldn't feel the wetness on the rain or sun, then shuddered the cold puppy that had temporarily adopted him and switched at his side. He walked past of the old mangosteen tree and up to the edge of a large right sport that jutted out in the river. He squatted on his lounge and rocked himself in the rain. The wet mud under his shoes made rude, sucking soles. The cold puppy shivered and watched it. Baby Kochama and Coach Maria, the vinegar-haired, the short-tempered midget cook, were the only people left in the Yemen house when Esther was returned. Mama Chi, their grandmother, was dead. Chaco lived in Canada now and ran an successful antiques business. House for Rael. After Hammond died, after the last time she came back to Yemen, swollen with cortisone and a rattle in her chest that sounded like a fairway man shooting, Rael drifted from school to school. She spent her holidays in Yemen, largely ignored by Chuck and Mamachi, ground soft with sorrow, slamming in their brave men like a pair of drunks in a toddy bar, and largely ignoring Babi Kochama. Metros relate to the raising of Rael, Chuck and Mamachi tried, but calling they provide to care. Full class fees, but we drew the concert. The loss of Sophie Moll stepped softly around the Yemen mouse like a quiet thing sucks it in books and food. In Mamachi's violin case, in the scabs of the sores on Chuck's shins that the constantly wore in his leg, womanish legs. It's curious how sometimes the memory of death lives on for so much longer than the memory of the life that it prolonged. All the years is the memory of Sophie Moll, the seeker of small windows where the harbors got to die. Why don't she dare once fall like stones from the sky? The arming a rush reality. You're both who works and I'm half one. The god of gore has seen a man in an accident with his highball swinging on the hand of Nair like a yo-yo. Slowly faded the losses of his small grew represent life. It was there, like a fruiting season every season as permanent as government job. It ushered Rahel from child, from school to school into womanhood. Rahel was first blacklisted in Nazarene Convent at the age of 11 when she was caught outside her housemistress's garden gate. decorated a knob of fresh cold dung with small flowers. At assembly the next morning, she was made to look up depravity in Oxford Dictionary and read aloud its meaning. The quality or condition of being depraved or corrupt. Rahel read with a rose-their muffled nun seated behind her and a sea of sniggering schoolgirl faces in front. Perverted quality, moral perversion, the innate corruption of human nature due to original sin. Both the elected and non-elected come into the world in a state of total decay and alienation from God and can of themselves do nothing but sin. J.H. Blunt. 6 months later, she was expelled after repeated complaints from senior girls. She was accused, quite rightly, of hiding behind doors and deliberately colliding with her seniors. When she was questioned by the principal about her behavior, casual, cane-starved, she eventually admitted that she had done it to find out what her breasts are. In that Christian situation, breasts were not acknowledged. They weren't supposed to exist if they didn't call the heart. That was the first of three expulsions. The second for smoking. The third for setting fire to her as mistress for Sarah, but which under duress, Rahel confessed to having stolen. In each of the schools she went to, the teachers noted that she was an extremely polite child and no friend. It appeared to be a civil solitary form of corruption, and for this reason they all agreed, severing their teacherly disapproval, touching it with their tongues, sucking it like sweet. All the most serious was a whisper to each other, as though she didn't know how to be a girl. They weren't far off the mark. Holding neglected seemed to have resulted in an accidental release of the spirit. Rahel grew up without a brief, without any money to arrange marriage for her, without anybody who would pay her a dowry, and therefore without an obligatory husband looming on her. Origin. So as long as she wasn't noisy about it, she remained free to make her own inquiries into braces and how much they hurt, into false hair bands and how well they born, into life and how it ought to be lived. When she finished school, she went on a mission into a mediocre college of the architecture in Delhi. Was the outcome of any serious interest in architecture? Not even, in fact, a superficial one. She just happened to take the entrance exam and happened to get through. The staff were impressed by the size enormous rather than the scale of their charcoal still life sketches. The careless, reckless lines were mistaken for artist confidence. Though in truth the creator was no artist, she spent years in college without finishing the 5-year undergraduate course and taking her degree. The fees were low, and it wasn't hard to scratch out a living staying in the hostel, hidden in the subsidized students' mess, really going to the class working instead as a draftsman in gloomy architectural firms that exploited cheap student labor to render their presentation drawings and to blame when things went wrong. And the other students, particularly the boys, were intimidated by Rael's waywardness, almost fearless lack of ambition. They left her alone. She was never invited to their nice homes or noisy parties. However, her professors were a little wary of her. A bizarre and prodigal building plans, presenting on cheap brown paper. Her indifference to their passionate critics. She occasionally wore to Chuck and Mamachi, but never returning to a Yemen. Not when Mamachi's died. Not when Chuck immigrated to Canada. It was while she was at the School of Architecture that she met Larry McCaslin, who was in Delhi collecting material for his doctoral thesis on energy efficiency and vernacular architecture. He first noticed Rahel in the school library and then again a few days later in Can Market. She was in jeans and white t-shirt, part of an old patchwork best dress was buttoned around the neck and drawn behind her like a cape. Her wild hair was tied back to look straight down. It wasn't. A teeny diamond gleaming on one nostril. She had absurdly beautiful collarbones and eyes athletic run. There goes a jet too, and Larry McCaslin thought to himself, and followed her in the bookshop, where neither of them looked at books. Ryle drifted into a marriage like a passenger drifts toward an occupied chair in an airport lounge with a sitting down sense. She returned with his meme to Boston. When Larry held his wife in his arms, her cheek against the heart was tall enough to see the top of her head. The dark tumble of her hair when he put his finger near the corner of her mouth. She could feel like teeny pupils. She loved the location. He loved its location, and that faint uncertainly jumping just under her skin. He will touch it, listen with his eyes, like an expectant father feeling his unborn baby kick inside its mother's womb. He always feared she was a gift, given to him in love, something still and small, unbearably precious, but when they made love, it was faded by her eyes. They behaved as though they belonged to someone else, someone watching, looking out of the window of the sea. Other board in the river passed by in the mist in a hut. He was exasperated because he didn't know what that look meant. He put some word between difference and spur. He didn't know that in some place like the country that Rail came from, various kinds of spur competed for her primacy, and that personal despair could never be desperate enough. Something happened when personal turmoil dropped by at the wasted shrine of the vast, violent, circling, driving, ridiculously insane, unfeasible public turmoil of a nation. The big god, all alike a hot wind and many obeisance. Then small god, coating containing private or unlimited, came away, cut her eyes, laughing numbly at his own temerity. Inured by the confirmation of his own inconsequence, he became resilient and truly indifferent. Nothing mattered, and alas, its maturity was never important enough, because worse things had happened. In the country that she came from, poised forever between the terror of war and the horror of peace, worse things kept happening. So small girl lived in a hollow loaf and skipped away cheerfully. Like a rich boy in shorts, he whistled to kick at the stones. The size of his brittle halation was a relative small of Miss Merchant. He climbed into people's eyes and became an exasperated expression. What Larry McCaslin saw in Rella's eyes was not despair at all, but a sort of enforced optimism.